leading roles with top opera companies around the globe. This year alone, in fact, his schedule includes Tosca in Munich in the Netherlands, Turandot in San Francisco and Hamburg, Un ballo in Maschera and Bruckner's Te Deum and Das Lied von der Erde, all in Canada, Mephistopheles in Covent Garden, special Proms concert at the Royal Albert Hall, and that's just the beginning of his schedule this year. Currently, he's in the Met's Il Trovatore. The next performance is coming up on Saturday, and you might remember him as Pinkerton in the Met's new Butterfly a couple of seasons back. Tenor Richard Margison is my guest in Studio B with Earl Buys at the piano. We've got some Verdi on the way, nice arietta coming as well. But let's begin with Puccini from Turandot, Nessun dorma. Live performance on WNYC, tenor Richard Margison.
Fredda stanza, guardi le stelle che tremano d'amore e di speranza. Ma il mio mistero è chiuso in me.
Live performance on WNYC, tenor Richard Margison with Earl Buys at the piano, Nessun dorma from Puccini's Turandot. Of course, Richard Margison, welcome to Studio B. Thanks very much for coming down this afternoon. Well, great to have you. The next performance that you're in Saturday down at the Met. You're from a place close to my home in the great Northwest. You grew up in Victoria, British Columbia.
That's right.
Center of coffee culture out in the Northwest. And I understand that you have some connection with coffee culture back there. Is that
well, actually, in my high school years, I was, I guess, what you would call a lounge lizard. I did my coffee houses and carried my guitar around playing sort of a folk music troubadour.
So you weren't doing the guitar version of Nessun dorma?
No, not at that time. Actually, that's the last thing that I thought I would end up in, actually, is opera. So it's a far cry from Gordon Lightfoot to Puccini, but...
that is a jump. You grew up singing those songs and listening to pop music, from what I understand.
That's right.
Elton John and Bruce Cockburn, great Canadian songwriter.
Exactly. Yeah.
How did you make? And your parents were classical musicians. But
yes.
How did you make this transition from the pop music and folk music to where you are now?
Well, actually, after a while, I got quite fed up with the type of venue that you sing in and entertaining a lot of people that more or less treated you as background music. You know, they were more intent on the next draft beer or cigarette, whatever. And so, I got tired of that kind of lifestyle, 6 hours a night, 6 nights a week. So I thought the best thing to do would be to get a Bachelor of Music and perhaps teach voice or classical music in the schools. So off I went to the University of Victoria and did my first year. Auditioned to be a performance major in voice, and they told me I didn't have what it takes to actually have a career in opera. So I thought, well, fine, I think I do. My teacher believes in me, so I left and been working ever since, and I had the great pleasure of receiving an honorary doctorate in music from the same university.
Now that's the kind of setback that a lot of folks would take as a final no to their career.
Well, I think so, but I think I've always been of the sort of the attitude that you know, if somebody throws an obstacle in your way, it's either going to stop you or it's going to make you mad enough that you're going to find a way to either go around it or go over it. So
Well, now they've given you an honorary degree, and here you are performing at the Met, and with a full season of performances
That's right.
around the world. And
Yeah.
congratulations! And the
Well,
new
thank
CD, the CD with the CBC, the Canadian Opera Company Orchestra, is out as well. We'll be hearing some Bizet from that a little bit later. That CD of French and Italian arias. Tell me about this little arietta that you've got for us.
Well, Caro mio ben, it's one of those things that I actually started with as a voice student, and just a pretty little song. I guess if you were to translate it, it means thou art bliss. So, you know, just a pretty little romantic piece.
And this is by Giuseppe Giordani.
Yes?
And some more live performance this afternoon. My guest in Studio B is tenor Richard Margison, currently performing at the Met. The next show is coming up on Saturday nights in Il Trovatore, and then 4 performances through the first half of February as well. Tenor Richard Margison with Earl Buys at the piano. Caro mio ben, the arietta, is by Giuseppe Giordani. More live performance.
Caro mio ben, credimi almen, senza di te languisce il cor. Caro mio ben, senza di te languisce il cor. Il tuo fedel sospira miglior, cessa crudel t'andor rigor, cessa crudel t'andor rigor, t'andor rigor. Caro mio ben, credimi almen, senza di te languisce il cor. Caro mio ben, credimi almen,
tenor Richard Margison performing live on WNYC. Earl Buys at the piano, the arietta Caro mio ben by Giuseppe Giordani. And let's go right on to some more live performance, some Verdi in just a moment.
Sempre misero chi le affida, chi le confida, mal cauto il cuore, pur mai non sentesi felice a pieno, chi su quel seno non liva amore, la donna e mappil, qual piuma elemento, muta nascendo.
La Donna Immobile from Verdi's Rigoletto live on WNYC. Richard Margison with Earl Buys at the piano. Richard Margison currently performing at the Met, Il Trovatore. The next performance coming up on Saturday, and then 4 more performances throughout the first half of February. Now, your Met debut, Butterfly, was Domingo conducting that one?
That's right.
Am I remembering right?
Yes, that's right. That's correct.
Now, with a tenor conducting, did he give some special dispensation to you? Did he go exactly the tempo you wanted because he could relate to the tenor's position up there on stage?
Well, I think the wonderful thing was that knowing that he was down there, even though I had a prompter, if I screwed up a word, I know he could come up with it, you know. No, it was a wonderful experience, and to work the role with him beforehand was a great thrill. I've been a fan of his forever, and to enjoy his musicality from that standpoint as well, and expertise was really a tremendous thrill.
Now, does he give you a discount at his restaurant now because you performed together?
No, but I do go there quite often.
Oh, okay. Now, you're doing a lot of different things this year, but it looks like there's a focus on some of the Italian standards. Is that a conscious decision?
Well, actually, I certainly enjoy doing the Turandots and the Trovatores and Toscas. Actually, I've called this my tea season. Tosca, Turandot, and Trovatore, I think are yes, actually, those are the only operas I'm doing this season in stage performances. But yeah, I think generally my heart is with Verdi and some of the heavier Puccini and some of the French repertoire as well.
So a focus on opera, and especially Italian opera, for the time being.
Yes.
But any interest in going to Lieder, doing song recitals?
Well, I do a certain amount of recitals throughout the season. I did one actually in the summer this past season in Ottawa, and I do them with orchestra generally, and it's really quite a nice thing to be able to do that as opposed to singing opera performances all the time. You know, you get to do your Dupac songs, the Strauss songs, and just sort of lay back a bit.
Ever throw in a Bruce Cockburn song as an encore? Or?
I haven't yet.
Yeah, well, we'll look for that Schubert and Bruce Cockburn sometime in the future. Now, the CD is out now as well with the CBC excuse me, the Canadian Opera Company Orchestra. This was recorded in 95?
That's 95 or 96. I can't.
95 or 96.
to be
Well,
honest, I
recently
can't-
anyway,
Yes,
a few years
released
back.
in '96 anyway. Yeah.
And again, the focus on French and Italian
Right.
work here.
Yeah, that's actually the programming had a lot to do with what the CBC had in mind. They didn't want to do a lot of songs that and arias that other people in Canada were recording at the time, so that was their choice, and I enjoyed doing it very much.
And that CD is out right now on the CBC label, and we'll be hearing from it momentarily. A busy schedule ahead of you with all the tea operas, and
That's right.
going to, is it Toronto for Das Lied von der
Yes,
Erde
actually.
in February, and
Yeah.
lots more. What's in the future? What's next for you after this season is done?
Well, actually, after this season, I start out with Turandot in San Francisco next fall, and then I go on to Detroit for some performances of Turandot, Montreal for Don Carlo, back to Chicago for Mephistopheles. I'll be in Australia for Trovatore, Sydney Opera. Back to the Metropolitan for some more Aidas and Trovatores, I believe, and so, yeah,
So
very busy.
piling up the frequent flyer miles, I guess. Yeah.
That's right. Facilitating enough points to at least be able to fly my family to visit me once in a while.
Good, good. They're still in Victoria, BC?
They're actually in Toronto.
In Toronto,
We make our home in
okay.
Toronto, yeah.
Well, we'll hear this Bizet in just a moment, but I've got to ask you one thing before I
Yes.
let you go. Here we are in the middle of cold and flu season.
Yes.
And there's this horrible Australian flu that's going around that supposedly this year's vaccine didn't take care of. How do you protect yourself in the middle of that?
Well, I actually am a firm believer in a lot of homeopathic remedies, and I take a thing called Just Greens every morning, which is a powder which has umpteen things in it that keep your immune system very, very high, and echinacea, astragalus, spirulina. It's got all sorts of goodies in it, and believe it or not, after a half an hour after taking this, I feel like I've been given an energy pill, and it seems to work. Touch wood.
Tenor Richard Margison, if you don't see him at the Met, I guess you'll see him at the local health food store stocking up on
That's right.
supplies. Have a great performance on Saturday and for
Thank
the
you very
rest of the
much.
run at the Met, and loved having you come down this
Well, it's a
afternoon.
great thrill to be here. Thank you.
And Earl Buys at the piano, thank you very much for coming down as well. And let's hear Bizet's, it's the Flower Song,
The Flower
right,
Song,
that we
that's
picked out
correct.
from the CD, Richard Margison with the Canadian Opera Company Orchestra under Richard Bradshaw.
La fleur que tu m'avais jetée dans ma prison m'était restée, flétrie et sèche cette fleur, gardez toujours sa douce odeur, et pendant des heures entières, sur mes yeux fermant mes paupières, de cette odeur je m'enivrais, et dans la nuit je te voyais. Je me prenais à te maudire, à te détester, à me dire pourquoi faut-il que le destin les mise là sur mon chemin? Oui, je m'accusais de blasphème et je ne sentais près